बंसीधरा कन्हैया श्याम सुंदर गोविंद माधवा मधुसूदन गोविंद माधवा श्रीधरा कन्हैया श्याम सुंदरा श्रीधरा कन्हैया श्याम सुंदरा. वृंदावन के राधे मेरा चित चोर जगमोहन मनमोहन मेरा चित चोर जगमोहन मेरा चित चोर जगमोहन. सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु न विद्विषावहै. शांति शांति. Together we will chant verses 1 to 10 of chapter 3 Bhagavad Gita. Chanting verses 1 to 10 chapter 3 Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhirjanardana tatkim karmani ghorena niyojayasi keshava vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasi vame tadekam vada nischitya yena shreyohamapnuyam. Shri Bhagavanuvāca Lokesmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam na karmanam anarambhan naishkarmyam purushoshnote na cha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhigacchati nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karmakrit karyate hyavasha karma sarvah prakriti jairgunaihi कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते यस्त्वेन्द्रियाणि मनसा नियम्यारभतेऽर्जुन कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते नियतं कुरु कर्म त्वं कर्म ज्यायो ह्यकर्मणः शरीरायात्रापि च ते न प्रसिद्ध्येद कर्मणः यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणोऽन्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धनः तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गः समाचर सह यज्ञः प्रजा सृष्ट्वा पुरोवाच प्रजापतिः अनेन प्रसवश्चिध्यम् एष वोस्त्विष्ठ कामधुक्. So we are going to take up this study of the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, the yoga of action, karma yoga. This is third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So the brief introduction, what is the description or message we are going to gain in this chapter. We are going to have a brief understanding, introduction. So the third chapter, the entitled name Karma Yoga, the path of action. So it contains 43 verses. In the preceding chapter, in the chapter 2, what we earlier covered, Krishna provides the sufficient knowledge and time to Arjuna, who actually collapsed in the battlefield, as we all know, to recover for him from the depression. This time and sufficient knowledge has been imparted by Krishna. From that despondent state, he could come out and fight the battle in the battlefield. So in the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna's question. Arjuna asks question in this chapter, which indicates a sign of recovery, a sign of emergence, a sign of wake-up call by Arjuna from his despondency, means from his depressed condition. He recovered partially or completely. Actually speaking, he completely recovered from his depressed state and ready to launch onto the action. So Krishna therefore starts his therapeutic treatment. So he gives therapy to Arjuna's personality with the yoga of action. So yoga of action is important to Arjuna. What actually to do action, how to do action, what are the various techniques of action, because Arjuna is the person who is supposed to do the job of fighting the righteous war, but he collapsed. So now he is totally ready with the sufficient knowledge and time given by Krishna in the chapter 2. Now he is ready to pick up his bow and arrow and start the war so that he can put into his knowledge into action. Now Krishna therefore starts the therapeutic treatment with the yoga of action. So this chapter 3 of the entire 43 verses of the chapter falls into 6 topics. So there are 6 topics in this chapter, and this topic division helps us a sequential logical thought flow so that we will have a clear conclusion of the message embedded in this chapter. So the original text doesn't provide these topics, it just gives this 43 verses, but this is the great analysis and contribution by the great master who helped us, the Guru and the enlightened soul of Swamiji, who gave us this topic division so that it is easier for us to study and understand the topics, so that what exactly the message is covered in this chapter. So the topic 1, introducing the path of action, from verse 1 to verse 3 is covered by this introduction of the path of action. And the second topic is an intellectual appeal to action. What is the guidance given through the intellectual appeal? Verses 4 to 19 covers this intellectual appeal. So Krishna uses his intellectual technique to Arjuna to make him act. Next, number 3 topic, emotional appeals for action. So when the intellect is failed, so these appeals will help the person to get on to action. That are emotional appeals. 20th verse to 24 covers these 3. This third topic. The technique of right action. Topic number 4 covers verses 25 to 35. These verses cover this technique of right action, because the whole world is acting, but actually what is the right action, what is the technique of right action is covered in this topic. Next is 5th topic, which is impediments to right action. So while executing the action, you get a lot of obstructions, obstacles. How to get over them, how to come out and execute them, the right action will be covered from verses 36 to 39. and ultimately the verse, the topic 6 has the way to overcome those impediments. So in this topic 40 to 43, the obstructions are coming, but the techniques to overcome them will be covered in the topic 6. So the actual message in topic number 1, introducing the path of action. So the path of action means the action is karma. This topic, karma yoga. So Krishna introduces the idea of action to Arjuna. As you all know, action is a must. So Krishna uses this action to Arjuna. He introduces how much it is important to act. So because Arjuna doesn't want to perform his actions and get away and escape from his duties, so Krishna introduces the idea of action to Arjuna, because humans beings fall under broadly the two categories, under two broad classifications. One is extroverts, another one is introverts. So introverts and extroverts, there are two classes of human beings available, broadly speaking. Who are the introverts? They are very reserved inside. They are contemplative people. Always focus is within themselves. They follow Jnana Yoga. Their perceptions, actions are the sense organs of action less prone to act, and their perceptions are very much in use. So they are the category of introverts. They belong to Jnana Yoga, path of knowledge. They supposed to follow the path of knowledge because they are introverts. They don't have that interest to perform actions. Whereas the extroverts naturally inclined for actions. So for them, the path of action, karma yoga, is recommended. So extroverts take up path of action, introverts take up path of jnana, knowledge. We are going to study what exactly they mean in this topic, coming verses. Next, an intellectual appeal to action. What the topic 2 covers is, this portion gives the logic and reason for performing an action. Why one supposed to act in life is clearly given the logic and reason. Arjuna collapses emotionally in the battlefield by seeing the elders, relatives and friends. He collapses emotionally, becoming weak on the battlefield. He lays down the bow and arrow and he says he can't fight the battle. He incapacitated to fight the battle. He ceases to act. He doesn't want to function. Krishna tries to convince Arjuna intellectually what is the purpose, what is the reason, why should you act? Intellectually on the importance of action. That is the topic covered in this portion. People knew the Krishna impregnates. Krishna introduces a new technique called the old age ritual called yajna, is introduced with a new meaning. So yajna is generally understood as a fire worship, where there is a fire is invoked and the priest and the participants and put all the fire kund and then they do fire worship. But that is being given a new meaning by Lord Krishna for yajna. In this, asking Arjuna to perform yajna as a mere, instead of mere fire worship, Arjuna was introduced by Krishna the idea of selfless actions. So, yajna means actions dedicated to highest goal of the self, which is nothing but selfless actions dedicated to a higher and noble ideal, the goal, the purpose. So, a goal beyond the selfish and self-centered interests. So, yajna means performing obligatory duties by oneself without indulging in ego and egocentric desires, no I and mine, no personal interests. When you perform actions dedicated to a highest cause, then those actions are called yajna activities. You are performing yajna. Pursuing the inner self, pursuing the Atman, pursuing God, as it were, rather than losing oneself in the quagmire of the sensual indulgences, is opposite to yajna. Yajna means actions dedicated to higher cause, the highest cause of the Supreme Self. Actions are obligatory duties which are dedicated to the inner self. That yajna activities are covered in the topic intellectual appeal to action. So the logic and reason to guide Arjuna to perform for the fight for the righteous war to achieve the supreme self, the Atman, not just mere indulgence in ego and egocentric activities or sensual indulgences. That is the purpose has been clearly given the logic and reason. Next is the topic 3, the emotional appeals for action. So there is a intellect, there is a mind. So Arjuna does not react intellectually, he does not respond to the intellectual appeal made in the previous topic of intellectual appeal to action. No intellect is functioning for him. So Krishna now tries to reach Arjuna emotionally. So when the intellect doesn't function, the emotion has to be used. So that is a great lesson we can learn from Krishna's teachings. How can a person can be motivated emotionally also? This Arjuna does not respond when a person does not respond to logic and reason with the intellect. Krishna now tries to reach emotionally. He makes 6 different psychological techniques supporting the intellectual reasoning for inducing Arjuna to action. So, to act, to perform obligatory duties, you have to use the logic and reason. When it fails, you have to apply the emotional methods, which are 6 methods he uses, or who Krishna uses on Arjuna. What are the 6 methods, 6 psychological techniques, the 6 emotions that he employs to draw Arjuna's mind towards his obligatory duty and responsibility, which is one is devotion. Devotional technique we are going to study thoroughly. Second one is persuasion. He persuades. Third one is vanity. He uses vanity as an emotion, means boosting ego. And we are going to study how to boost ego to perform actions. And fourth one is personal appeal. So is a personal emotional appeal he will use. And fifth one is fear. He induces fear to action. And sixth one is threat. So he also uses the emotion called threatening to act. So these are the 6 emotional techniques Krishna uses on Arjuna, because the Arjuna doesn't respond to logic and reason intellectually. He comes down to emotional level to boost Arjuna to get on to the duties and responsibilities of the fighting the righteous war. So this treatment, in conjunction with his earlier intellectual appeal arguments, completes Krishna's appeals to Arjuna's mind and intellect. So you have a mind which is feelings, intellect which is thinking and reasoning. Both techniques are applied by Krishna so that Arjuna can recover. So Arjuna appears to have responded, because there is nothing else can be done more than making the mind to feel and get on to action, and intellect to think and get on to action. Understanding and feeling both have been supported greatly by Krishna to Arjuna. But having done that, the Arjuna appears to have responded. Any human being who is having basic human development can react. The lowest category of Arjuna has reacted means everybody can react and get on to the duties and responsibilities. And these appeals, since Krishna proceeds to give the technique of right action, having recovered and ready to receive, now Krishna gives the 4th topic. What is the topic? Technique of right action. What is the perfect action? Right action. Action which takes you to constructively to higher development. So this topic gives the prescription of right action. What is the blueprint of perfect action human beings supposed to know? For the most part, people live their life selfishly. If you carefully analyze, entire humanity lives generally a selfish, self-centered life. So acting only fulfilling their ego and egocentric desires, while craving for the fruits of their actions. So their actions are propelled by their ego and egocentric propulsions, desires, and they're acting for the fruits of their actions. What they get out of that action. All the time, what I get from the action, what I want, all the time focused on I and mine. This is general trend of the every human being. They cling to actions for their own personal ends. Instead, they must, now the technique of right action is, they must direct their actions to a greater cause beyond their personal selfish and self-centered interests. They must work for the higher, nobler cause beyond their personal selfish interests. A high ideal, a noble cause. The highest the ideal, greater is the power and energy. The highest ideal, the ultimate ideal, the ultimate goal, the greatest cause of all causes is the discovery of the Supreme Self within. So if you have that fixation, I wanted to reach the Supreme Self, I wanted to get on to the discovery of the Self, pursuing the Supreme Self is the greatest cause. If you dedicate your actions, if you perform your actions committed to that ideal of Supreme Self-realization, God-realization, that activities will be deemed as activities with the right attitude, their perfect actions. To work for that is selflessly towards it. First, what one has to do, one has to choose a field of activity. Means what is your swadharma? Whether you are a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or a politician or whatever field which you are comfortable, you have to choose that action, choose that field of action. Having chosen that field of action according to your basic nature, You have to fix as high an ideal as you are capable of attaining. Means if you are working for yourself, you can think about family welfare. If you are happy with the family, you go beyond it and think about a community or social welfare. Or if you are able to understand this community and society, you go beyond and fix your interest on the country level. Let the country prosper by my actions. The idea of broadening your circle of identity. Then one day you can embrace the whole humanity on the planet. I work for the entire Loka Sangraha, means entire welfare of the all beings in the world. And then slowly you can raise your ideals to reach the highest one called reaching the Supreme Self, the Atman, the God principle. So fix as high an ideal as you are capable of attaining. It must be realistic. Pursue the ideal, taking care that your personal likes and dislikes do not interfere with your highest pursuit. So when you are performing your actions, your personal preferences, your personal interests, your personal whims and fancies, your likes and dislikes will interfere to pursue the highest goal, then you must be careful in avoiding them, avoiding the likes and dislikes and executing the actions diligently, pursuing the cause. Do not waste your energies in brooding over your dead past and craving for the results of the unborn future. This is another practice, the technique involved, right action. So the natural tendency of the mind is to brood over the past, linger over the past, or worried anxiety for the results of craving for the future worries, future anxieties. This must be clipped. So you have to concentrate on the present action as an obligatory duty offering to the Lord and cut down this past and future. Then you are practicing this right technique, which we are going to study how to do all that. Act in the present in the spirit of service and sacrifice. So the selfless actions, attitude of spirit of service and satisfied for the achievement of your ideal, which you set for yourself to discovery of the realization, God realization or self-realization, the inner self. That is karma yoga. The technique of right action is going to be thoroughly covered in the chapter, the topic 4 in this chapter. Next is, having understood the technique of right action, we enter into the topic 5, which are the impediments to right action. What are the impediments? Impediments means obstructions to performing the right action. Arjuna asks Krishna why people abandon virtue and court vice, invite vice, attracted to vice. Vice means bad. Arjuna asks in this topic to Krishna why people don't like good actions, they like only bad actions, negative actions, actions which cause them suffering and sorrow, ultimate death. Vice and virtue, good and bad also called vice and virtue. Why people are attracted to vices, means bad and negativity. Arjuna asks, while knowing it to be wrong and wishing to remain virtuous, everyone knows that what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. But Arjuna asks, why one forcefully attracted to the wrong things, knowing fully that is wrong, and wanted to be right, wanted to be a good person, he is attracted to bad. What is that which makes him? What forces them? What forces the human beings to commit such sins, means such blunders in life? You always observe in life also. Everyone knows the good and bad, right and wrong, but something pushes them to commit bad activities, commit negative activities. Arjuna wants to figure out the cause for it through Arjuna, through Krishna. A person knows right and wrong, right from wrong, and wishes to tread the path of righteousness, yet he feels constrained, he feels compulsive, he feels controlled to take the wrong direction by some inner compulsive force, inner compelling force. Arjuna wants that force to be identified. Arjuna wants to know why a person commits murder, a person commits suicide or rape or burglary or gambling or whatever the so-called. He knows clearly those are all the bad things. But what is the force which makes that human being constrained beyond his control and makes him commit that blunder? Arjuna wants to identify that force. So, Krishna replies that the underlying force behind sinful actions, bad action, is desire. Desire is the root cause. There is an underlying desire which pushes the human being towards committing such blunders. And the modifications of desire called anger. So, desire and anger both are the causes for the individual to commit such blunders in life. Desire is your greatest enemy. Human being minus desire is equal to God. God plus desire is equal to human being. So, desire is the greatest enemy which unchecked, unscrutinized, unexamined, uncontrolled, ultimately destroys the human being. It's the desires which are destroying human beings, nothing else. Unchecked, unexamined, unscrutinized through intellect causes the human beings fall. So, and the desires' very nature are insatiable, means they can never be satisfied, they can be growing, mounting more and more, like a fire. Example is given is fire. Fire, it can never be satisfied by supplying more logs of wood. If you give them wood more and more, it will consume the entire wood, entire fuel, and ready for more. That is the essential nature of the fire. Similarly, the very nature of the desire, the more you experience the desire, the more you indulge in the desire, the more you enjoy the desire keeps growing in your mind. And that's why the people makes blunder after blunders, following innocently, ignorantly, unknowingly the greatest enemy of the desire. Krishna is going to elaborate in this topic. Impediments to right action. What are the obstructions to perfect action to reach the perfection in human being, which is enlightenment? They conceal the self. So the desires encrust the self. Desires blanket the self, cover the self. So they cause mental agitations, they cause stress and strain. Which causes it? Desires only cause the stress and strain, worries and anxieties, suffering and sorrow, all the time brooding over the past, anxiety for the future, all these things because of the desires. So these impediments will be studied thoroughly. Next comes the topic 6, wherein the way to overcome the impediments will be studied. How to get out of these impediments, obstructions. The last topic provides the method of overcoming the desire. How to get over the desires. How to gain that enlightenment has been covered, since desires impedes the right action. So your likes and dislikes, your desires obstruct your obligatory duties, your right actions. You are not able to perform because of them. So desire could be springing from physical body, physical level, or the desires could be springing from your emotional level, means your relations, your family members, your sons, daughter, wife, children, neighbors, whatever, your emotional relationships or desires could be at the intellectual level, which are the honor and dishonor and knowledge and ignorance, and trying to get attracted to various discoveries of logic and reason in the worldly aspects of life. That three levels of desires veils the wisdom. They cover the wisdom of the Supreme Self within in an individual. So the desires cover the Supreme God in an individual and it deludes him, deludes the human being, means confuses them, confounds them, is not able to see the reality. The human being loses the focus on the reality and got caught up in the unreal, false, imaginary, delusive, worldly objects and beings and caught up because of the desires. In the concluding verse, Krishna advises in this final verse of the chapters, Krishna concludes and advises the practice of self-restraint. So he gives the technique and importance and advises Arjuna through Arjuna to everyone to practice self-restraint, means sense control, means you must learn the art of controlling your senses, controlling your mind, controlling your intellect. You must learn. If not, your life could be in danger and trouble. With this can be possible through gaining self-knowledge and pursue the self-knowledge to destroy this enemy. First, to practice self-restraint and gain the self-knowledge, and by sustained self-knowledge and absorption, you get on to meditation and enlightenment, and you reach the infinite state and fulfill your mission of life as a human being. And that is the completion of this chapter of Karma Yoga. The 6 topics will be covered, studied thoroughly. Now we get on to the first topic, introducing the path of action, verse 1 to 3. We are going to take up. Verse 1. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. Verse chanting again. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. So in this, Arjuna uvacha means Arjuna said. Uvacha means said. Arjuna, the Bhagavad Gita, as you all aware, is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna in the form of question answer sessions. Sometimes Arjuna asks question, sometimes Krishna starts off by his own narration to Arjuna to communicate the knowledge of the reality. So here Arjuna speaks. Oh Janardana, if you consider knowledge superior to action, why then do you, O Keshava, engage me in terrible action, ghora karma, of killing these people? Because it seems Arjuna asks this question because of the dilemma. Krishna seems to be giving importance to study, gain knowledge and enlightenment one side, pursue the knowledge. In another tone, Krishna seems to advising to perform action. Action is a must. Knowledge is a must. One tone. Action is a must. Another tone. So Arjuna is confused. What is that right thing to do? Is the knowledge? Is Krishna seems to be telling the knowledge is superior, knowledge is perfect than action. Then why Krishna is asking Arjuna to perform action? This is what the Arjuna's confusion he asks in this. O Janardana, Jayasi Chet Karmanaste, Matabuddhir Janardana. If the knowledge is superior to action, then why are you forcing me to perform this terrible action? Tat kim karmani ghore ma. Ghora karma. The terrible action means the killing the greatest people of his elders, his gurus, his relatives and friends, is killing their own people. Arjuna considers there as a ghora karma, means terrible, terrible action. So if you consider knowledge is superior to action, why then do you, oh Keshava, engage me in terrible action? So Arjuna's questions Krishna as to why he recommends this terrible action when he considers knowledge is superior to action. So as you all, everybody knows, knowledge is better than action, because without knowledge, if you perform action, you will be in trouble. So that is the question. The action refers to the fighting and killing his own kith and kin, many of whom he particularly respects and reveres and worships, such like a grandfather like Bhishmacharya, Guru like Dronacharya. They are worshipful actually, not only relations, they are great people. So how can I do such a ghora karma, such a terrible action? That's what is the question. On the Kaurava side, Bhishma, their great ancestor, who nobly renounced the kingdom. So who is Bhishmacharya? Bhishmacharya, who is the noblest and greatest ancestor, means grandfather, who nobly means who virtually, who is full of goodness and full of sannyas, full of renunciation in his heart. He has no interest, no desire, no ego, no egocentric desires for himself, zero. Such a great personality is called Bhishmacharya. He renounced everything, not even him for himself. He kept anything. He renounced the whole kingdom which he can own it. His own kingdom he renounced, for which these two Pandavas, Kauravas, the royal cousins are fighting now. And he is standing in the battlefield fighting, supporting them. So Drona, another great personality called Guru, greatest Guru of the time. Even now, people revere Dronacharya is a great Guru. Their Guru taught them all their skills. Whatever skills the Pandavas and Kauravas acquired, even using the techniques in battlefield, is because of Dronacharya, who taught them both, and they are using the same techniques upon him. Arjuna is supposed to use those techniques to kill Dronacharya, so he is not able to take it. Whose Drona, their guru, taught them all their skills in archery and science of warfare. Hosts of other respected relatives and friends, millions of them, many of them are arrayed on the battlefield, fight for in the Kauravas army, whom Arjuna has to shoot their arrows, his arrows, to kill them, to oppose and destroy them, would, in Arjuna's opinion, be the most heinous crime, most greatest sin, bad action, bad karma also Krishna has just spoken eloquently to Arjuna about the value and virtue of the knowledge. In the chapter 2, he gave the importance to what is the greatest knowledge one must gain, knowledge of the reality, knowledge of God, which is the main mission of every human being. He eloquently spoke in the chapter 2, and he is also seems to be understanding this is a heinous crime to kill the kinsman. He therefore asks Krishna, Arjuna asks Krishna, why he induces this atrocious action, why he forces him or induces him to action in preference to this pursuit of knowledge. So compared to the action, knowledge is superior, therefore better to gain the knowledge. Then why are you asking me to perform these obligatory duties? Why should I can't go to the study and gain the knowledge and wisdom and enlighten myself? This is the clarification question Arjuna asks Krishna. Arjuna obviously does not understand the application of action and knowledge. By this question, it is clearly evident that Arjuna is not clear about what is the application of knowledge and action. Pursuit of knowledge may be superior to action. Definitely pursuing knowledge, gain the wisdom, Supreme Self is best thing to do, one can do in life. No doubt about it. But the question remains, superior to whom? Who is qualified? Who is capable? Who is eligible? Who is actually fit for gaining knowledge? That is the question, is not understood by Arjuna. Many of the people misunderstand here. A man of action needs to act. So when a person belongs to the category of action, man of action, he is supposed to act. He cannot take up knowledge. He is inferior capacity. So a contemplative person, a meditative person, a thinking person, a intellectually developed person naturally takes to pursue the knowledge. He will take up study, he will take up reflection, he will take up understanding, sit down and analysis. The general studies, vast majority go to jobs. Very few percentage of people go for research and study, investigation, becoming scientists in the humanity. Most people come to the lower category. Very few people go to higher researches and investigation and scientific discoveries, like any PhDs and all other research fellowships. So similarly, who is actually eligible for research work? That person only is eligible to study the scripture, understand the knowledge embedded in, and gain the contemplation and reach the self. But Arjuna is in no condition. That's what I mean. A contemplative person takes the study, a man of action, a person of acting nature, he has to act. So the knowledge, the guidance is given based on the individual's condition, not based on the priority, what is higher, what is lower, but who is eligible, that is to be understood. So there are two distinctive types of people in the humanity, which is to be understood. An active person is not made to pursue the knowledge. Person who is acting type, he is not eligible to study and gain wisdom because his mind is disturbed. If he studies, he can't concentrate because he is totally caught up in the actions and is workaholic. So, nor is a contemplative person designed for gross action. A person who belongs to the study, reflection, contemplative research work, he is not comfortable in doing a physical activities of clerical or low-class jobs is not designed for gross physical actions. Arjuna does not seem to understand this distinction. Arjuna is not able to see the difference between the contemplative person, research-oriented person, and the person of active workaholic. That must be clearly defined. Humanity is of two categories: research-oriented and work-oriented people. Vast majority of people belong to workaholics and work-oriented. They are not eligible for research, study, inquiry, and discoveries, and sit down in room and contemplate and meditate. Vast majority don't belong to that because of their own category by themselves. So Arjuna does not seem to understand this distinction. Being a Kshatriya, being a warrior class, Arjuna belonged to the Kshatriya. A warrior is a man of action. He is not a priest category, sit down and study scriptures. He is a warrior, means he belongs to the active oriented. He needs to present righteous war. So there is a dharma and adharma, righteous war for fulfilling his own desires. So he has got desires, and there is a presentation of the situation which is righteous versus unrighteousness, and he has to perform his duties as a warrior and got the righteous war in front of him. One must live according to one's nature. One must live according to one's swadharma. You can't suddenly shift or copy one personality to another personality. You have to find out what nature you belong. You have to follow. That is good for your growth. So one must live according to one's nature. The pursuit of knowledge would be totally incompatible with Arjuna's nature. So Arjuna is a man of action. So for him, study, reflection, contemplation is not compatible to his nature. His nature is workaholic, warrior class, fighting attitude, desire, full of ego, full of worldly person. He can't invest time and effort in study, reflection, contemplation on the pursuit of knowledge. That is the advice given by Krishna, which Arjuna is not able to understand. Therefore, he posed the question. That's why he uses these two words while referring to see the confusion in him. What is that? Janardhana. He uses the two words. One is Janardhana and Keshava. Keshava both belong to the Krishna. Krishna's proper nouns, names given by Arjuna to Krishna is Janardhana and Keshava. The two names of Krishna literally shows the confusion of Arjuna mind. What is that? One is Janardhana, means Janan Ardhayati, means protector of people. Janardhana, Janan Ardhayati, protector of people. And Keshava implies killer of Keshi. Keshi is a demon. When Krishna killed the demon Keshi, he earned the name Keshava. Keshava is the name of Krishna, which is by killing the Keshi. And another word, Janardhana, means he earned the name by protecting people. So these two words diametrically opposed, used by Arjuna to refer to Krishna. These two choice of words with opposite connotations. Protector one side, killer on other side. Are you a protector or are you a killer? So these two words seems to reflect Arjuna's confused or confounded state of mind. So when a person is confused, he is not able to crystal clearly see and decide his course of action. He has to, like Arjuna, Krishna, he surrendered and gained the advice. Similarly, a person who is confused, first thing is he must choose a higher intellect. a greater personality, a guru or a book or somewhere, and he surrender and try to get the clarity so that he can choose the perfect choice to develop himself constructively. This is the advice. And we will also take up second verse onwards from the next class. Thank you very much. Hari Om.